Yeah, you three sitting here share a very unfortunate bond, and you've lived through this nightmare. Rick, I want to start with you. When we look at your son's case, there are so many aspects that have been, frankly, infuriating. We talked about law enforcement and education. And for those that aren't aware, can you talk a little bit about, prior to your son being assaulted in August, talk a little bit about the red flags that you tried to raise with your son's school community?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, for you guys that don't know, my son was attacked on the 18th of August at the In-N-Out. But prior to that, this is actually his third attack. So in his freshman year, he was attacked at a school bus stop, and he was beaten to the point where he couldn't walk. And I remember getting the phone call. I was literally just down the road. And he was able to call me and tell me he was in a lot of pain. And when I drove up to the bus stop, I saw him laying in a bunch of thorny bushes with cuts all over him from laying in there. And he couldn't literally walk. So I had to pick him up and put him into the car. The kid beat his kidney so bad that he had internal damage. And it took him over 30 days just to be able to heal and walk again. And then I went to the school officials about it. I went to the police department about it as well. And it seemed like we just went through a lot of routine, admin stuff just to log it. But one thing I started noticing was that without the principal being able to give names and stuff, because there was a lot of minors involved, it seemed like there was quite a few other threats going on from other kids and things. So I guess one thing I would want to know, and maybe people can investigate, is if they can get a hold of some of these school records and ask these principals how many people are coming forward with these complaints and stuff. I think it would probably stun all of us if we knew that. If you got kids, teenagers, to line up and they weren't afraid or that they were going to get attacked or retaliated, and you got them here to talk, I also think we would be very stunned at the number of incidents that have been happening. This was 2 years ago for my son, and then my son's a competitive swimmer as well. So before state, in his freshman year, he got attacked in the bathroom at that same school. Injured him so bad he couldn't even move his arm. He did compete, but he obviously didn't do well because he was in so much pain from that. Again, went through the same routine with the schools. The police let them know everything, and honestly, I just heard crickets. And I decided to move him out of that school district and let's go to another one. His junior year, let's start fresh. You don't know anyone. And literally, the end of July, school started, and he started getting threats from kids. He doesn't even know these kids. I kind of think to what Sheriff Lamb said is that I think they pick, because I've been trying to figure out why they would pick on my kid, and I think it's just a lot of envy. That's the only thing I can come up with. My kid's an unapologetic Christian, and he's a good kid, and he's an athlete, and he's just always a positive role model. And maybe they just didn't like that. Maybe because they didn't have that. I don't know. Anyway, he started getting the threats. I went to the school. I went to the school resource officer, and I said, look. And I gave him all the screenshots of the text, these kids holding a gun, pointed at him, threatening him, all kinds of stuff. I'm like, this is very serious, knowing that what he went through already. So I remember telling them, look, it's not a matter of if this happens, it's a matter of when. What are you guys going to do about it? Can you guys reach out to these parents and give them my phone number? Let's sit down and talk, and maybe we can figure out as grown adults, why does your child hate my kid so much that he wants to inflict harm on him? Where is that hate and that evil in the heart? Why is that happening? Nothing. Heard nothing. Crickets. A week after that, the kids show up to my house, threatened me and my son right in front of my house with my dog. Called the police, filed a report, gave me a case number, nothing, crickets. And then literally just 2 days after that is when he got jumped by 10 kids right at the In-N-Out, pulled right up to him in a white pickup truck. They jumped out of the back and just beat him. But I can tell you that my mother, God rest her soul, she died 2 months before my son was born.
Yeah.
But I remember her telling me that before she passed, her last words that she was going to protect my son.
Yeah.
I believe she wrapped her wings around him that night, and that's why he's still alive today.
I think we're going to hear a similar story from the Durkins,
Right.
because when you go through this, when your kid is assaulted, it's not only your child that's assaulted, but in a way you all are also assaulted. You feel violated because in some way maybe you didn't do your job as parents, which isn't true, but that's how I would feel.
Yeah. We didn't have any threats, thankfully. We had no warning at all. Kevin's situation was definitely a complete random act of violence. The only thing that I do know is he was the tallest one. He was wearing white. Everyone else was in black. And he was the only one hit like that.
He was hit with brass knuckles.
Yeah, just once. from
Knocked out
behind,
his
Not
teeth.
even paying attention. I mean, back turned. He never saw it coming. He literally never saw it coming. He had no idea who did it. None of his friends had ever seen the kid before. When we called the police that night, no one was available to come take a report for us that night. It took till about 3 or 4 o'clock the next day to get someone to finally, and that was after we threatened to go to the station ourselves because it was getting ridiculous. Finally, someone came out, and he was very helpful and nice. He told us, he literally said, we don't have the time for this. We don't have the resources. Kids get into fights all the time, and if you want something to be done about this, then you've got to do it yourself.
And how bad was your son injured? Can you speak to his injuries?
Sorry, it's a lot more difficult for my wife than me. As you can imagine, a mother's heart is giant. So the injury, in total, he'll have lost 7 teeth. The initial injuries, when he got hit, the front bottom 4 teeth on the bottom were completely knocked out, root and all. There was no teeth left. And then one of his top front teeth was pushed back a 1/4 of an inch. And we have recently found out that that tooth's not going to survive. And then he had this little flipper with like fake teeth on it. And because he's still a growing child, they can't put implants in. So his teeth kept moving around and that thing would break. These are not cheap. And so the periodontist met with a bunch of his colleagues, and they kind of confirmed, because they would never do this for a kid, to put a bridge in, which requires destroying 2 healthy teeth to put the bridge in. And so right now he has a bridge on the bottom, and we just had a root canal to kind of halfway save the tooth on the top. But, you know, I've heard a lot of comments, and I've been thinking myself.
And the hole in his lip.
Oh yeah, and he has a giant scar right on his lip. And
The
it's
knuckles went straight through his lip right here.
Yeah.
He's got about a centimeter scar, but it was a whole entire hole.
Yeah.